And there you have some flying of the UMX Icon A5 off of both land and water. I just want to give you my post-flight impressions of the model and its flying characteristics. Overall, it's a really nice flying airplane. I'm really happy with it. Flies great. All the flights were fantastic, superb, except for the first one. And the reason for that is the center of gravity was not quite right. Now I used the stock 182 cell pack. I use a Nanotech 182 cell pack, which is almost exactly the same size. And I use a 200 milliamp 2-cell pack. So these were the 3 batteries that were kind of rotating around for all the different flights. The initial flight, I put the battery up in the front of the nose as recommended in the instructions. So it's probably sitting somewhere around up in here, tucked away nicely. I took off and immediately realized the model was incredibly nose heavy. It just really wanted to pitch down and almost dive bomb. I had to hold a lot of elevator to keep its nose up, and in fact I trimmed out all the elevator I could, and I still had to hold elevator to keep the nose up. So I brought it back pretty quickly for that flight, realizing that something had to be done with that center of gravity. So for the next flight, I took the battery and I just kind of wedged it between the foam sides right here, keeping it off of the receiver ESC board and keeping the wires kind of away from the servos and the board and kind of trying to keep everything neat. Once you put the cover on, that would kind of freeze the battery in place so it wouldn't really move around. I shook the model around and made sure of that. And that really corrected it. After that, it was just such a nice flying plane. Well balanced. I didn't need any other trim at all. Flew straight and level. Could slow it down, speed it up. You can see from the video that, you know, it does a fine inverted, just a little bit of elevator to hold it inverted. Loops, rolls, very scale-like flight. And it can even do kind of a pseudo knife edge with all the rudder throw that you can get on it. So just a really great flying model. As far as taking off from the ground, you know, it tracks pretty easily. Once you get a little bit of speed, that rudder will help you control the direction of the model. You do not have nose gear steering and you do not have a water rudder on this model. So you're entirely dependent on the rudder and airflow over it to steer the model. But no problem really on the ground, just a little bit of speed going and you could steer it fine left or right. Just make sure that your nose gear is pointing straight ahead. If that is off to the left or right, you're going to be fighting that. And once it started tracking, you know, a little bit of torque to the left, but you could just counter that with the rudder, keep it nice and straight, and it would take off in a very scale manner. So very easy to take off the ground. Of course, it's super easy to hand launch as well. On the water, you know, I found that taxiing it, you had to be pretty gentle with the rudder, pretty gentle with the throttle. Once you started trying to take off, you know, it did want to torque and drop that left wing down and could get kind of close to the water. But once you gently apply the throttle, kind of brought up to speed, the wing would come back up, level out. And then once it was on step, you could easily take off, no problem. So, you know, I would counter a little bit of opposite rudder on takeoff, on taxiing, just to try and keep that wing up. And then even a little bit of aileron I use at times, but found that once it was on step, it was no problem at all. As far as landing, you know, I had pretty good landings for the most part. You just kind of have to bring it in and grease it in nicely. I did have one landing where I really planted it in the water. You could see it just came down and, you know, just planted, plop right into the water, splashed a bit, but it didn't flip luckily. And I taxied it back and nothing really was wet inside. So I made sure of that. And the rest of the landings were no problem. I definitely enjoyed flying it off the water. It's a little bit more stressful and difficult in terms of worrying about that model getting flipped in the water and getting wet and all that stuff, but still it was a lot of fun to fly. So overall, guys, it's a great model. Really like it. Definitely would recommend it. I love the way it flies. And you know, if you don't have a water body nearby or any place where you can fly off water, no problem at all. You know, it's still a really fun flying model. You know, it takes off the ground, no problem, and looks great in the air. So, you know, even if you don't have the water body, I'd still highly recommend it just for the fun factor alone, for the flying characteristics. Like I said, I found that the battery in the stock position was nose heavy, so that's something just to keep in mind. You know, putting it back a little bit further really helped a lot. It made a whole world of difference in terms of the flying characteristics. So that's it, guys. As always, if you enjoyed the videos, please like, subscribe, all that great stuff. Always appreciate it, and I'll see you flying. Bye.